How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be continuing my Sharks of Summer series. For those of you guys who are new around here, Sharks of Summer is where once a week during the summer, at least once, I review a shark movie. Now, it's towards the end of September, so I'm kind of pushing the definition of summer, but I said I'd do it through September, and we have this one, and I'm going to do at least one more. Maybe more, but maybe just one more. Depends on how much I have the time for. But this one, I was really glad to get to. This is The Last Sharknado. It's About Time from 2018, directed by Anthony C. Ferrante, and stars Ian Ziering and Reid. And I just want to say, right off the bat, that this is a remarkably consistent series, at least in that respect. 2018... that means that each movie came out about a year after each other. They all had the same director, which, I mean, gee, name me any other series that went 6 movies and had the same director every single time. That's rare. And then you also get Ian Ziering and Reid, who are also producers, but as the stars of every single movie in this series. So, great to keep the cast and a lot of the crew around too, and to do it on such a consistent basis the whole time. That's really cool, but this is the conclusion, the big epic finale, and I have to say it was pretty fun, you know. When I decided to watch these movies for Sharks of Summer, I had seen a little bit of the first couple parts, and I said during Sharks of Summer I'd probably do at least 1, 2, and 3, but after I saw 3 all the way through, I thought, okay, I want to see how this ends, I want to see the rest of it, and I was hooked. So I really did, enjoy the decision to go ahead and binge watch the whole series there, and I got to the end, and I have to say that was pretty fun. 3 is still the high point, but 4, 5, and 6 still have a lot to like about them. They're not as good as Part 3, but they're still pretty fun. And with Part 6, I have a lot of the same criticisms as I do about Part 5. Part 5 and 6 are kind of the episodic movies, So Part 5, it was an excuse for the characters to jump around the world, travel the world, and they kind of got into little random adventures in each place they went. Part 6, the characters travel through time, so they're jumping through different time periods and getting in little wacky adventures where they go there, and it's cool to change things up, to put the characters into different spots and go on wacky and different and cool adventures. But that being said, it does kind of share the pacing of Part 5 as well, where a really strong opening, then it gets kind of rambly in the middle, but then a really strong ending, And I'd rather have a focused plot with a sense of scale, but that being said, I get that they wanted to go on wild and crazy adventures, so I understand what 5 and 6 were about, but at the same time, I kind of would have rather had it be focused. But it still leads to, especially towards the end, a big, crazy, over-the-top finale, and that the last 2 time periods they jump to, I won't spoil it, but one was really big and epic, and one was kind of unexpected but totally made sense in retrospect, and lots of really cool and epic things happen in those last 2, and I really did like the last 2 places they went, so it was really fun and a good conclusion to this series. Wraps everything up all nice and is a really fun movie, As far as cameos, this time around, there's not as many cameos, but the ones that are there are pretty strong. The main thing is, you go back in time, and you can't have people just show up as themselves. They have to be playing a character, because obviously you're back in time and not in the present. The biggest and most talked about cameo is Neil deGrasse Tyson playing Merlin, who does a really good job. They kind of pitch this as Merlin, but he's really doing science and stuff. And he's a really good actor and a good part of this movie, and it made sense, and it was really fun, and it was really cool. You also get Gary Busey and Gilbert Gottfried reprising their roles, so you get to see each of them, but again, just for a little bit. And then one of the cameos I was really excited for, the band Quint. They go to the 1950s on the beach, and they have them as sort of a Beach Boys parody group, although they are still called Quint. But yeah, they're the band that did the Sharknado theme song and a lot of the other Sharknado music, and their music's been all throughout the series, and now we finally get to see them in person, so that's really cool as well, and there's several other cameos in addition to that, but I never have the time to list them all. But that being said, let's go ahead and talk a bit about the plot. I'm not going to be doing any major spoilers, but I do want to say my piece on a few of the plot points, and make sure you guys have a basic understanding as to what the movie's about. But that being said, no spoilers for this one, but I will have to talk openly about Part 5, well, and all the others, but especially the ending of Part 5, because at the end of Part 5, we ended with Finn in a post-apocalyptic landscape carrying April's robot head around with him, and then his son shows up in a time machine and says, "We have to fix all of this." That was a really great ending. So big and over the top and crazy, and we open up with the immediate repercussions of this. Finn goes back in time, but Gil's not with him anymore. You see, his current technology only let him go back in time once. You can only go backwards in time once. So what you do if you want to go through time is you go all the way back as far as you can and then go through time in order, jumping forwards, which is an interesting way of going about it. So Finn wakes up in the past and he has the wings, which are actually a computer that are going to guide him through the future, and he's found that Gil has sent other people to the past, other characters from the series, snagging them out of time just before their deaths and putting them in the past. One of them is the baseball guy from Sharknado 2, which I thought was a really fun pull, you know, kind of a random character that could have definitely deserved more screen time. The other two are much more obvious. Obviously, you have Nova there, because, you know, you're gonna fight sharks. You want to have one of the best shark fighters in the series. And then the other one is obviously April. But the interesting thing with April is Gil pulled her before she died in Part 3. You know, well, died and then came back as a robot. So this is mostly human April. She still has one robotic hand, but other than that, this is right before she got squished at the end of Part 3. So there's regular, mostly human April, but Finn secretly has April's robot head in his bag, and that's gonna wind up to some crazy and wacky situations, you know? You get Tara Reid, human, talking to Tara Reid, robot head, and the two have to kind of work things out that way. And they do take the robot head arc in a genuinely surprising way, and they really do build off this, so I really am glad they played off this into the way that they do, and it builds to something really wacky and crazy towards the finale. Some really great stuff. But anyway, you get the team there, and Tara Reid comes riding in on her pterodactyl. Kind of missed an opportunity not to do a Tarna parody from Heavy Metal, you know, but Tara Reid is riding in on a pterodactyl, and they have to stop the first Sharknado from ever happening. They say if they take out the first one, the rest will fall like dominoes. And you actually get to see the Megalodon in a Sharknado, which was really cool, because that's like the big and epic shark, and if you're going back to dinosaur times, definitely cool to see the Megalodon make an appearance. But they beat the tornado, and for whatever reason, that just doesn't work. You know, the Sharknadoes are still out there, and they get sent forward in time to castle times, but yeah, they don't know. And that's sort of one of the things, is they're letting Gil's computer take them forward each time, and they're going on different wacky adventures, but why did stopping the first Sharknado not stop all the rest? I'm not entirely sure, but the computer sends them forward in time each time, and they have to stop a Sharknado in different time periods, and then to get away they have to build up 88 miles an hour, of course. And another cool thing with this is they get little glimpses of Gil, who's also been traveling through time parallel with them, and you get to see Gil growing up and having a really interesting and crazy life, getting older and older and going through each of these time periods, preparing way for the Sharknado and trying to figure out, how to stop the Sharknado, and living his whole life, going through times, getting different mentors, teaching people different things. And you don't get to see it too often. They learn, like, hey, you can't interfere with Gil or you'll mess up the time stream. So you don't get too terribly much of this, but it really does make him an interesting character, and you have to wonder how crazy his life was, So you do get little glimpses of Gil, and of course other crazy characters from throughout the series will pop back up later on. But anyway, it is kind of rambling from there on out. I do like a lot of the time stuff, You get sharks under a magic spell in medieval times to breathe fire and become dragon sharks, They go to the Wild West and of course have to use the train to travel through time, like in Back to the Future Part 3. You get the 50s party beach, and you get lots of cool stuff, and I really do like all the little adventures they go on. But that being said, it is a little rambly. I don't know why stopping the first Sharknado didn't work, and it sort of becomes, okay, we're in a new place, stop this new Sharknado, meet some fun historical people, see Gil for just a second, and then jump on. So it does get a little repetitive, but each new place is pretty cool. There's the American Revolution and getting to see Washington and Hamilton kind of arguing with each other, Washington, Hamilton, and getting to meet, a few people during the American Revolution. You get to see the ancestors of Nova there. So that was pretty fun as well. There's lots of cool stuff. It's just, what's our goal, and the main story gets kind of repetitive, but it is fun, different things, and it does build, again, no spoilers, but the last two places they go to before the very end were a big surprise with cool, crazy stuff happening that really works within how the themes of the story were going. And I really do love, what they do with April's robot head. That was really fun, and what it built to was cool. So there's a lot to like here. But I do have to mention, and I'll try not to ramble, but time travel. I'm kind of a big time travel nerd, and it's cool to do time travel, and this is definitely one of those switch your brains off and just enjoy it, Every now and then a character will use, a modern word that I'm like, they wouldn't have said that back then. And during the American Revolution, there's one guy with, modern glasses on, so there is a fair bit of historical inaccuracies. And they keep going, it's this big plot point. Nova, you can't save your grandfather, because if you do, you won't exist how we know you, and then you won't have saved everybody that you saved. But at the same time, they're running through time, wrecking up the place, and I'm like, okay, but that doesn't have any big historical ramifications. And I do like that Nova actually does point this out, come on, Finn, you're messing up the timeline, why can't I? And, there is some of that, but it's inconsistent, it's like, why can't she mess it up when they're clearly already messing it up? And then they also blend, and this is a big thing, and it's not going to be everybody that totally gets this, but when you deal with time travel fiction, there's two basic types of time travel fiction. What I call static timelines, where the timeline doesn't change. Think Bill and Ted, where they go back in time and everything they did had already happened because they already did it. You don't change time. Everything that you do in the past had already happened in your present. And then there's the other type of timelines, what I call dynamic timelines, where you go back in time, you split off time travel, and it becomes this whole new thing, a whole new timeline. And every time you go back in time, you just being there will change things radically and result in time getting messed up and changed more and more often. Now, the problem when you mix static and dynamic timelines is you say you can go back in time and change stuff, but this was always meant to happen, which doesn't really work unless your original reality was not the prime reality, but that in of itself, a splinter reality. So basically, don't say you can change time, but also say that things are always this way and they've always been that way. You know, that's just where you run into problems, and I may have lost a few people on that. I don't know. It's just, I'm a big time travel nerd, and I don't like when they mix you can change time and you can't change time into the same movie. That's a big no-no. But this is Sharknado. Turn your brain off and just enjoy it. It's just wacky time travel adventures. I know that. But anyway, overall, this was a good finale to the series. It had a big, epic ending. It was kind of like, remember in Evil Dead, how they go back in time for the finale of that series as well? It did remind me of that. And overall, I thought, you know, hey, they want to squeeze as much as they possibly can. It builds to a unique tornado at the end, and just, you know, like some wacky situations. Now, it didn't, other than at the very end, get to that unbelievable level that I normally like, but it's still pretty cool, and I definitely did like most of this movie. It's just a little bit too rambling, and I might be rambling myself. But anyway, a fun conclusion, not perfect, about on the level of 5, so pretty good but kind of episodic, and not building, you know, not building up to the epicness, but getting to the epicness at the end. So overall, 3 still the best. 4 through 6 are fine though, they really are, and there is lots of wacky adventures and fun to be had. So to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. I definitely recommend this movie, especially if you've seen all the others. It ends on a solid note. But anyway, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll put a relevant playlist on the bottom. If you guys want to see more, you can click there and see more. It'll probably be my Sharknado playlist, and you can see my review for the whole series from the beginning there. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Relevant playlist on the bottom. Have a good day now.